Welcome to Living for Learning. I'm Beth Mahar.
And I'm Sue Eliason. Tonight we will consider how your home supports speaking and listening. We will use tools provided to evaluate your living space in terms of how it promotes oral language development, and we will identify design solutions that enhance oral language development. Right now, please pause the video, and we'd like you to describe your home, the age group of children that might visit your home or perhaps that live there. What would you hope to learn? And we would welcome you to provide us feedback at any time during this presentation on how useful and applicable the information is for you. How are speaking and listening connected to literacy? Literacy is defined as all the activities involved in speaking, listening, reading, and writing. The Common Core state standards, which are used in Massachusetts, describe speaking and listening or oral language, which are these two items, broadly as useful oral communication and interpersonal skills, including sign language. You see effective oral language skills when a person can work cooperatively, express and listen carefully to ideas, integrate information from oral, visual, quantitative, and media sources, evaluate the heard or signed word, and adapt speech to context and task. Beth will answer,
what supports speaking and listening in your home? The environmental influences on language development found in your home include the following attributes: interaction, noise level, natural elements, privacy, sleep, caregiver support, and culture. Each of the attributes will be defined and explained in terms of how they contribute to oral language development and how they can be enhanced in your home. Interaction, the need to give and take with others. We learn language by using language. Noise level, we need to be able to hear each other, to listen, and not have too many disruptions. Natural elements, to refuel and renew our minds and bodies to assist with receptivity. Privacy, sufficient space and flexibility allow for individual needs to be met. Sleep, to recharge our minds and bodies and consolidate memory. Caregiver support, accessibility, safety. Need for caregiver to be rested and energized to be able to interact, which addresses foundational needs which are required and lead to universal design to ensure success, happiness for all. Culture, important to identify one's own cultural influences and other cultures' influences of the attributes and on language and thought processes.
we're not the only ones thinking about this oral language gap. In an article in the Boston Globe opinion section on Saturday, October 26th, Catherine Snow, a national literacy expert, is quoted with saying that we need to change the shape of the landscape and the conditions in the lives of children so that the language gap created doesn't grow further.
Interaction. Sharing food is an example of interaction. What are other examples of interaction in your home? Interaction is defined as mutual or reciprocal action or influence. In the home environment, interactions between children and adults likely happen during eating, dressing, diapering, washing, playing, reading, when the child wakes, and at bedtime. The adult in these situations could be the mother, father, sibling, extended family member, or hired caregiver.
How do children develop this skill? Language acquisition happens through interactions with an adult caregiver. For example, infants listen to and learn the sounds of the words spoken. Language development and learning occur through shared conversations and book reading, and by providing reasons to talk and interesting things for discussion. Researchers explain that children need print materials and shared reading activities to develop oral language skills. We have provided you with a checklist, and we'd like you to take it out now and look to see that you have these type of interaction areas in your home, such as areas for playing, meal sharing, preparing food, entertaining, working, being outdoors, and recreation. Why is this important? Well, interaction supports communication skills such as turn-taking, listening when someone else is talking, understanding and using rules of grammar, asking questions to get information, and engaging peers and adults. There's a wonderful TED Talk that really explains the influence of social environments on language acquisition. We invite you to go to TED Talk and look for the TED Talk by Deb Roy, that's DEBROY, and I think you'll find it very interesting. He wired all the rooms of his house with video cameras and microphones. During 3 years, he captured 90,000 hours of video, 140,000 hours of audio. He analyzed the words that his child heard and the words that his child produced. He identified each of the 503 words he could produce by his second birthday. And I'll leave the rest for you to explore.
Let's take a look at an example of a house and talk about interaction. This is about a 1,200 square foot ranch-style house, all on one floor. Did you know that the open floor plan evolved from changes in child-rearing practices? Here are two very similar houses built about 100 years apart. It's interesting to take a look at each of them and think, what's the same, what's different, and why? For those of you who are listening to this on your own, you will find the answers in the workbook.
The second attribute is noise level, which impacts listening skills such as understanding what other people are saying when they speak, detecting, manipulating, or analyzing the auditory aspects of spoken language, enjoying listening to stories, and following oral instructions. Background noise can make understanding conversation harder. The noise can disguise the sounds of speech, making a word like time sound like dime. The American Speech Language Hearing Association explains that when in a noisy environment, listeners need to consciously attend and focus to hear over the noise, and when speaking, they also use more energy since they have to speak louder. Speaking loudly can strain the voice, possibly resulting in laryngitis. Another possible effect on hearing is ringing or buzzing or other sounds in the ear. The American Speech Language Hearing Association explains that sound is measured in decibels. Sounds that are louder than 85 decibels can cause permanent hearing loss. The noise chart here lists average decibels for sounds experienced in the built environment or home. Research demonstrates that noise, especially airplanes landing and taking off, disrupts living, working, and learning. Loud sounds make it difficult to communicate, concentrate, listen, and increase stress. The home should insulate people from excessive noise. How?
One way that you can reduce noise is by insulation. And in this example is a home that's actually built with walls made out of straw. They're very, very thick walls that have actually been in use since the mid-1800s that people started building houses of straw, but houses out of mud. There are a variety of different ways of building houses with very well-insulated walls. We do it too with more modern products. The walls not only provide thermal protection, but also noise protection from sounds from outdoors, as well as sounds from room to room. Take a look at your attribute checklist, and under noise level, you'll see these questions. Are you protected from external noise, especially airplanes or other loud traffic? Internal noise, such as TV, neighboring units, and protection from each other. There are other ways that we can protect people from too much noise. We refer you to your workbook to see these other examples.
The third attribute is natural elements, which include materials that allow for sight, sound, or touch of items such as wood, stone, brick, rocks, sunlight, plants, water, or animals. These materials are those that provide a sense of connection with the earth. Bolin, in 2012, described that access to the outdoors, especially green spaces, relaxes and reinvigorates people, and that when children play outdoors, they sleep better and can concentrate more effectively. Burton, in 2011, explained that vegetation, either in the home or visible from windows, is critical to children's well-being in that it may reduce violence, ease stress, stimulate creative play, and enhance social interaction. Relating natural elements to oral language in that your home can support the learning of sensory vocabulary through natural elements.
A famous example of a home incorporating natural elements is Falling Water, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright in the 1930s for a family in Pennsylvania. In your workbook, you can look through and pick out some of the natural elements that you see that are both inside, outside, on top of, underneath. Also, referring to your checklist under natural elements, see if these are some of the things that you have in your home or would like to have, such as which things are visible through windows, openings. Is there a front porch, a back porch, balcony, outdoors, courtyard? And also even the things inside your home as far as your flooring, wall finishes, lighting. Do you have pets, water features, houseplants, or gardens? Given what you know of what you have, how might you increase the natural elements in your home?
People need privacy. All children and adolescents need some privacy to cultivate a sense of personal autonomy. People should have a place where they can recuperate, rest, invite selected people to join them, store their possessions, and be where they feel safe. Children's need for privacy is linked to the development of sense of self as separate yet connected to others. Privacy enhances speech and receptivity because it provides a place or places to relax and renew, practice without judgment, listen and participate as one chooses, control the environment, protect possessions, try out new actions, express feelings, and daydream. Privacy includes ideas of sufficient space and flexibility, which we will highlight as we talk about attribute number 4, privacy.
Informal and formal use of alcoves and extra spaces near public spaces. To be able to listen to conversations in one's own world, privacy includes an element of flexibility, or how spaces can be used for multiple functions, as you will see on other slides as well. An ideal home will balance the opportunity to interact with others and provide sufficient space for people to feel comfortable.
How much space is sufficient? For ourselves, for our possessions. Our responses will be culturally determined and may change over time. Bartlett in 1997 defines crowding in this way. Crowding implies not only inadequate physical space for the number of people in a household, but it can mean more congestion, higher noise levels, greater frequency of interpersonal encounters, and less opportunities for privacy. So, on one hand, crowding increases interaction. On the other hand, it increases stress and reduces language receptivity. Later in this workshop, we will discuss the compatibility of attributes with each other and explore how we can balance these possibly conflicting needs. There you go.
Researchers describe that if people are not able to adapt or manipulate their environment, they may feel trapped and incompetent, creating stress and reducing the ability to use humor. These feelings can impact health and development of children. In these examples, no room is designated for one specific function. On the left side, this is a home from Japan where things were brought out. They were stored away, and this was a multifunctional room for eating, possibly cooking, sleeping, socializing. And also this occurred too in Europe. This is a great hall from the 1300s where once again everything was done here. And it shows that there weren't specific rooms for specific things, that there were a lot of people together, but that things didn't overtake the spaces used.
Okay, there you go.
Flexibility. Co-housing is another example of flexibility, where a group of individual families design and build a space that includes shared and private areas. For example, in Unit 108, you can see there's a kitchen living space, 2 bedrooms, and a half bath. They also have access to shared spaces to entertain a large group, to have guests spend the night, to participate in loud activities, to do woodworking and other big projects, and activities which may not occur every day, but provide a family the flexibility to have these things while living in a small private unit. It also enhances interaction among people. Generally, a family will also have more access to green space, given that co-housing residences are clustered together, allowing for yards to flow into each other, much like neighborhoods in the old days, when there was very little fencing between houses. Often, too, this is a more affordable and sustainable way to live. Now, referring to your checklist, you can see if these are some of the things that you have, whether you're in co-housing or some other living environment. Do you have personal space for each family member and their things? Is there sufficient space for residents, visitors, for activities, safe storage of items? Is there flexibility to rearrange furniture, openings, and/or walls? And how might you increase privacy in your home?
Related to privacy is attribute number 5, sleep. No matter where one sleeps, it's been shown that good sleep is essential for learning and growth. So, an essential part of design for a living environment will be to ensure that everyone can sleep comfortably and well. Sleep is essential for language acquisition. There is research to indicate that sleep enhances declarative memory, which includes memory of specific personal experiences, and semantic or vocabulary memory, which stores factual information in children and adults. Sleep may be critical in the acquisition of phonology, which is making sounds, in children, which is necessary to build vocabulary, because we have to recognize a word and distinguish it from similar sounding words. Research supports the idea that sleep is critical for the lexicalization or process of making a word express a concept. This type of learning involves abstraction, where information is abstracted during learning and subsequently stored for later use during classification of new examples. A study from 2006 found that sleep facilitates abstraction, so sleep promotes lexicalization. The next slides are meant to get you to think about your beliefs about sleep. The following statements, think about if you agree or disagree with the statement, or where you fall on the continuum, if you maybe slightly agree, slightly disagree, or are neutral. The first statement is, everyone, including infants, should sleep in their own room, in specific clothes, in their own bed.
The second statement is, everyone should sleep for 7 to 8 hours in one stretch at night.
How do you feel about there should be no bedtimes? Everyone should spend as much time together socializing and eating.
And what do you think about this statement? Sleep is important to health. We agree with Tennant, who wrote in 2009 that sleep habits in Western cultures create a decontextualized person who is dissociated from family members' noises, sounds, light, and smells. Does a sleeping space have to be in a bedroom? Does sleeping for individuals only need to occur in one designated space? For example, if we gave you a tour of our homes, we would refer to a room as my bedroom, the only place where we sleep. Do living and sleeping spaces need to be different? People sleep in a variety of arrangements all over the world. These images are from the U.S., Inuit of North America, Sweden, Turkey, Japan. Co-sleeping is becoming more accepted in our culture and is the norm in many cultures. Many parents know that even if a child begins the night sleeping in his or her own room, they eventually end up in their parents' bed. Parents often help their child fall asleep by lying down next to them. In fact, our sleeping positions have changed over time. During the 1400s to 1700s, many slept in short sleep cupboards, propped up with pillows in a half-seated position. Sleeping spaces can be in alcoves of larger public rooms, and spaces can have a variety of beds and cubbies for sleeping in. So a sleeping space does not necessarily mean a private space. Referring to your checklist, under sleep, do you have a comfortable space for each family member? Is the noise and light level acceptable for each family member? And are there any changes to sleeping arrangements that you would like to make?
Attribute number 6 is a supported caregiver who is essential to the well-being of children. We believe happy families produce happy children. Caregivers who are consistently available, sensitive to their child's verbal and nonverbal communication, tend to have children who are securely attached with them. Attachment is a deep and enduring emotional bond that connects one person to another across time and space. Caregivers that are less responsive to their child's needs for comfort and protection have children who are insecurely attached. Ineffective caregivers are unavailable either physically, psychologically, or emotionally, and tend to be insensitive or unpredictable in their parenting style. In contrast, caregivers who are consistently available and sensitive to their child's nonverbal communication attach to them. There is correlation between attachment and language development. Attachment form as a secure base from which children explore the world and have experiences necessary for language development. So designing a living environment for a child's language learning needs should support the well-being of the caregiver.
Being able to supervise while attending to other tasks eases caring for children. In this example, there's also space in the kitchen for many to cook together. A not too big house minimizes time needed to care for the house. This house also has a large loft over the bedrooms and bath to allow for away or private space near the public space. Another option for supervision is the proximity of extended family to aid the caregiver, which has pros and cons. It may ease the physical burden, but can restrict a young family's flexibility in child-rearing choices. Through a child's independence and self-sufficiency, the ability to care for oneself, a caregiver is relieved of some custodial tasks and has more flexibility in caregiving. Toileting is especially critical. Western toilets are too high for young children and may be too low for people with mobility challenges. The toilet shown on the top right of the slide offer solutions to these challenges since it is adjustable in height. You can see that it can be lowered and raised even to a higher. Another solution is the picture on the bottom right, which shows where in some cultures people use squatting toilets that you just stand over. On the other hand, many conversations and eye-to-eye contact take place around toilets. Bathrooms are getting larger and are not necessarily private spaces anymore.
Within the home, there are many hazards. When we were children, playpens were in common use. Now they are discouraged, with research showing that prolonged time in playpens could delay a child's development. Caregivers are encouraged to allow their children to be more mobile and explore their environment, which could increase safety concerns. Reducing a caregiver's anxiety around safety expands the caregiver's emotional availability and reduces the number of negative interactions with children, such as, "No, you can't do that. Watch out!" Safety concerns are about the world outside the home as well as within it. Windows provide views to the outside world and can enhance safety, because residents can monitor what's going on, and also windows welcome people in, which encourages interaction and support. When caregivers feel safe, their children feel safe. When children feel safe, they can take risks needed to learn language. Homes should help meet the safety, security, and belonging needs of its residents and create relationships from which language develops. People need to feel safe to express needs, wants, desire, and to demonstrate learning. Children are much shorter than adults and do not have fully developed mental abilities to comprehend the hazards inside the house. What would it mean or look like to create a home truly accessible to everyone? Have our modern conveniences made our houses safer or not?
Caregivers need to be aware of the many elements and tools that we use inside a house which are hazardous, and then need to consider how to protect their children from them. These are just some of the many examples that I'm sure you're all aware of, from being cautious around water, even keeping the toilet bowl locked, scissors, products used for cleaning, electrical outlets, and even netting. In some places, it's important to screen children and others from insects and other airborne things. Then there's issues around falling, a child falling downstairs or something falling on a child, even running through glass, pinching fingers in doors, and then monitoring some of the gases that we produce in the house, be it smoke or carbon monoxide, and of course being very cautious around cars, and even animals who can exert such a positive influence on children, but there are some dangerous animals, or animals that are made to be dangerous too. So referring to your checklist, you can see that there are a lot of things to think about as around safety. Can you easily supervise your children? Is your home easy to maintain? Do you have access to a social support system? Is your home a safe place to renew? Is your home accessible and allows for self-sufficiency in the entry-exit, living areas, sleeping areas, kitchen and bathroom? Is your home safe from fire, water problems, falling, disease, etc.? What might you want to change?
Attribute 7 is culture. Culture is the characteristic feature of everyday life shared by people in a particular place or time. Although we live in a physical environment, we create cultural environments within them. Language and culture intertwine. Children thrive when the built environment reflects culture. Culture supports all literacy skills, but is essential for the development of language, because culture defines the conventions for the language, as you can see in the cartoon. You may have heard there are many words for snow in Native Alaskan cultures, and I thought the cartoon was funny. You see that culture, particularly reflected in the speaking skills of producing the sounds of the language, understanding what words mean, and connection among words, how to use words conventionally, and using the conventional forms of the word. Listening skills of understanding what people are saying when they speak, and the auditory aspects of the spoken language are also cultural. Culture defines the social rules of conversation, how to engage peers and adults in narratives or discourse, and the culture will determine the vocabulary and interrelationship among words. We learn culture from our families. Families come in all configurations from multitudes of culture. How would you describe your culture?
Culture will prioritize the use and importance of the attributes. The practice of feng shui, meaning wind and water, used in many Asian cultures and being incorporated in Western design too, is concerned with the flow of energy through a home. Feng shui is the practice of arranging an environment that keeps the life force energy flowing in balance so that we can live and thrive. So this might supersede some of the things we were talking about, but it's important to think about how they interact.
You may want to do this activity and think about what a home should include and what a home should not include. What would we find unacceptable in a home environment in our culture?
How can we compare the expression of the attributes in the built environment? What we show here is a house from the 1700s compared to a house from the mid-1900s. On your own, you can think about what's the same, what's different, and why do you think this is so. You can refer to the workbook as some of the ideas we had about this. Also, you may want to think about where places are conducive for interaction. What about privacy? What kind of caregiver support is there?
How do you see the interaction between the attributes? Using the 7 circles in your workbook, create a Venn diagram to illustrate the interaction between and among the attributes. Do you notice any possible conflicts? Do some attributes encompass all the others? You may have realized that some attributes are seemingly incompatible, primarily interaction and privacy, and how noise level could impact sleep, interaction, privacy, and is also often culturally based.
Here is our idea of how the attributes interact. The thought is that caregiver support and culture impact each attribute, and that's why they're surrounding all the other ones. And that natural elements are neutral elements which should be there but don't hinder any of the others. But as we said, the notion of interaction where you need to be around people and make some kind of noise, but then you don't want the noise level too loud to impact people's privacy and sleep. So these are some of the things to keep in mind in trying to maximize the attributes in your home.
We've included a project checklist as a way to evaluate the attributes in the built environment. We have reflected on the interactions among the attributes. Now let's focus on how to prioritize changes you might recommend to improve oral language development. Take out your checklist, go from the left-hand column to the right, first determining if the item is something that you have, then if it's something you want, and finally prioritize the elements as high, mid-level, and low. When you're designing a space, you would want to keep in mind to do the high priority items first, then perhaps the mid-level, and then when you're ready to finalize, you would be doing the lower priority items.
This is taking a look at an existing apartment building and taking out the checklist and looking it over. So you could use this as an exercise, which we will go over in the workbook, identifying areas where interaction takes place, how noise level is dealt with, where the natural elements might be, privacy, sleep, caregiver support, and culture. It's also important to keep in mind that families change over time. So to think about how what kind of family this apartment might work for now and how it might change later.
How could you enhance language acquisition in your home? We're available to help. Perhaps you may be interested in a free in-home consultation. Please feel free using our contact information in the workbook to contact us, and we would be happy to explore options with you.
We look forward to discussing this more with you. Thank you.